Kia ora. I want to welcome you back to Attached, a different lens. I think that's what we've called it. So, but it's really interesting because every time I chat with Kirsty, we have literally different experiences from parenting, and I find it fascinating. And it's oh, there's so much from an attachment angle, but also from an environmental angle, and how people interact, not only the adults but the children. And we will expand this as the weeks go on, but we're sticking to one question, and I have the one question for Kirsty this week, and it's a good one. So I just want to talk a little bit because Kirsty works with energy, and I don't think we're talking about energy enough in parenting. And so I'm really going to be interested where this question goes today with us. So my question to you is, she says, oh gosh, hang on, where's my question? Oh gosh, where is my question? Okay, when you think of parenting, where do you see energy?
And so, it's interesting for starters because I'm not actually the most visual person. I'm more of a feeling, knowing person than oh yeah, I see this, I see your aura, I see that. But Donna did flick me this question yesterday, and I had like 10 minutes to kind of reflect on it. And so I thought, what would be really interesting would be um, to start off with try and answer it as it's asked. And so I closed my eyes to see what the visual I got was. And the first thing was kind of obvious. It was a bit like those kind of pictures or sculptures you see where it shows the whole energy system. You can see the meridians, you can see kind of like stars in the head and the third eye. And it's like a parent and a child connecting energetically all the time, even when they don't think they are. And so the whole energetic system is important. And the kind of the most obvious is the heart, but it's all of it. But then I was like, what else? What else is there? And the next image I got was it was kind of like a neuron. So, those the brain as a black hole. And I was like, oh, okay. So what does that mean? So I kind of unpacked it a bit and I thought, I think what that means to me, it's kind of like the idea of mirror neurons. So when we relate to someone, we mirror and we have mirror neurons that help us with that. And it was kind of like, so the mirroring in relationship and specifically parenting, because that's what we're talking about, is a portal. And we know that. And that encompasses so many different experiences, right? Because it's showing us what needs to be shown, which sometimes we're like, oh, that can't be right. That can't be right. That is not what I need to see. But, very often our kids do show us incredible things when we can be present with them. And it's not to say that we're doing something wrong that's causing the behavior or the volatility or the shutdown or the crying or whatever the specific thing is that is the physical manifestation. That we're part of this energetic system. And from I suppose, that really holistic perspective, personally, I do believe in the idea of us choosing our families from a kind of learning or karmic standpoint. So even when we've grown up in families where it's been a little bit horrific or challenging or just disconnected, there's some aspect of us that in some way, it's not always easy to understand, has chosen these experiences, this family. And then very often with our own children, we have the opportunity to heal things from the past, transmute energies. So there's that whole kind of flow-on effect happening. And it's about us, and it's also about, the souls of our children choosing us, which can be a really comforting, in a way, thing to think about if we like me, pretend to be kind of hyper responsible and think, very aware of what's happening with our child, but thinking, oh, I just want to fix it. But our children choose us. They do. I really believe that. And it doesn't mean that we should not be trying our best and meeting them where they are. But there's some things that are, in a sense, beyond our control. And it reminded me of last week. We had our 20-minute conversation, and then we stopped recording, and then we had another really interesting conversation. And one of the things that came up was something from my early parenthood experience that really stayed with me. And it was in the early days with my firstborn, and I was having a really horrible time trying to feed him, and it was intensely stressful. I didn't like watching him struggle and be in pain with his reflux and all the rest of it. And I thought, who can I speak to that I trust? And I went to see the lady I'd done hypnobirthing with, because she was also a counselor. So I had this bit of a relationship with her, and I thought she'll be safe and she'll get it. And she gave me this CD I went home with about, relaxing when you breastfeed, and it didn't help at all. But what really stayed with me from the counseling session was when she said to me, you know, children have their own journeys, and maybe sometimes he needs to struggle. And it still makes me like, ooh. And it was, yeah, it was such a kind of light bulb moment. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. I don't want him to struggle. And I can feel the truth in that it's not all on me, no matter how hard I'm trying to do my best by him. He does have his own journey, and I might not even understand why until much later. Yeah, much later. Mm. So I'm gonna stop there for now, and and we'll see what comes up for you with, yeah, the energy of parenting. What do you see?
So this is really interesting. I'm going to do something a little bit different this time, because when I thought of energy, what initially came up, because I've worked with lots of children, and so it's a little boy I met when I just started teaching. So I'm going to detour, because back then we weren't really talking about ADHD or neurodivergence. So we're talking 15 years ago. And I remember with this little boy, he was struggling. The children didn't like him. Half the teachers didn't like him. The parents were complaining the whole time. And I remember, and I can literally feel goosebumps as I'm talking about him. I could feel this spiky energy coming off him. And it was more whenever I got close, the only way I can describe it is like a spiky energy. And I'm like, it was coming out from his body. And my friend at the time said, "Don't talk about this, Donna, because you sound like a weirdo." And I'm like, but I can feel it. I can actually feel this energy coming from him. And this child was so distressed, and it's more now what I understand about the brain and the nervous system. I can see that he was living a lot of his time in survival. It's more this child was in survival. And the why he came into my mind was that I was only a student at the time, but I really made an effort to get to know him, to build a relationship with him, to help him feel safe before I knew. And everything I've done has always been about what feels right. And then I tend to find the research after I work what feels right. And what really stood out to me about this child, which everyone was labeling and making assumptions about, he went to the same school as my children. My children were younger than him. So he would have been, by this point, year 5 or year 6 when it was. I actually stood for the board of trustees for the school. And he remembered me. So most children don't remember me as a teacher. And this child saw my picture, took it to his mum, and said, "Mum, you need to vote for this lady. This lady's really kind." And he remembered all those years back about me. And I think what really got me was that was the start of me feeling. So again, I feel stuff. And so then as I've worked in infant rooms, I used to feel energy of the children. So again, everything was, so me and my colleague Danny, um, we used to feel energy off the children. So I knew when a child was hungry, I knew when a child was tired. And the other staff used to look at me going, "You're nuts." Because I'm like, they'd ask me, what does this child need? And I'm like, well, hang on a second. And I'd literally just pick a child up and I'm like, oh, actually, I could feel, like I say, I could feel the softness or the hardness of their body, and I'm like, oh, actually, this child is hungry, or this child is tired. And Danny could do exactly the same thing. We weren't teaching by the clock we were really teaching through feel, because our hands, we'd literally trained our hands to be so gentle, so we could feel the minute differences with children. And I suppose then I want to come back to parenting, because I carried a lot of wounds and my nervous system was really activated when my children were younger. So I only went into teaching when my children were older. And I suppose my body had relaxed a lot more as I was starting to feel all this stuff. But for me, from a parenting perspective, I wonder what it would have been like for me actually being able to feel my own body, so that I could feel someone else's body and feel the energy of someone else when I was a mum, because that's also now what I teach people. So I try and teach people the way that I understand young children, because they don't have a voice as such. But when we really start to look at all the micro things that that child is saying, so a tenseness of the body, that child is tense, let's have a look at what that child needs. So for the particular child I was talking about, that tenseness meant I need to go to sleep. Where if the body was softer for this particular child, it was, I'm actually hungry. So they'd still be doing the same cry, but I'd be feeling something different. It's more, I build my relationships with children now through all of my senses, through all of my senses. And this is why, for me, my own regulation, being able to feel myself so I can actually understand someone else. And this is what I do as well when I work with Interplay or Relational Flow, is that I have to know that I'm bringing myself into the space so that I can feel what the other people in the room. So the energy, and again, I was thinking about it, going, and you've talked about the mirror, the mirror neurons, and I'm like, because that's actually what I'm doing. It's more, I need to be clear in myself so I can understand what other people are bringing into the space, and also my own tenseness when I'm bringing my own stuff into the space, because this was something that Donna Reggio brought up in supervision with me. I hadn't even seen it, that I'd got scared in a particular case, and so I had tensed and I had started to control the situation. And I wonder how many professionals do this. They don't even realize they've hit, because Donna said to me, "You've hit your ceiling." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "You've hit your ceiling." And I'm like, and then she was like, "Can you not see it?" And I'm like, and it took me a while, and I'm like, "Oh, I can see I've hit my ceiling." And then I was like, ah. And I wonder, when we have professionals coming into difficult cases with parents, whether they hit their ceiling and whether they don't have that awareness that suddenly, because I'm hearing from lots of parents now, this professional said this professional said that. And I wonder whether they go into this, I'm going to, for my own safety, speak the party line. Because if I speak the party line, I'm safe, rather than really attuning to the parent in front of them, and actually realizing this is why supervision for me is so important, because I had no idea I was bringing my own stuff in, because I thought I was really regulated, but I wasn't. I was scared. And so, and actually the decision I made was actually really good, because what I did is I moved us into a space that was more regulating so I could do the work, because in the environment I'd started I couldn't do the work in that environment, but I could do it in an outside environment. And that's all energy. It's all energy, because once we got into that outside environment, I relaxed. We still had the same behaviors going on, but I was relaxed. So I know I've gone all over the place there, Kirsty, and I'm really
Yeah, no, it's all good.
interested. I'm really interested. That little boy, what was I feeling? Because all I can, and I've never had anyone be able to describe to me what I was feeling with that spiky energy.
Mm. What were you feeling?
Well, it was just,
Wow.
I could feel it. I could
Yeah.
literally, I couldn't see it, but if I was going to describe this energy, it felt like
Mm.
spikes.
Yeah, I would say it's like that jagged quality of the nervous system and him just being, yeah, like weary, on edge, and probably afraid because, yeah, as you say, it's different with each child, and that's why you have to attune because it's not like there's a guidebook saying when your child acts like this, it's because of dot dot dot. It's just it's just not the case. I mean, it might be the case because law of averages, but you won't really know unless you are feeling into it. And I know that with my kids, I could always tell whatever the behavior was if it was like actually he's terrified. Um, they possibly would have been a bit like the little boy in your classroom, but they were never in the classroom. Mm, and not
And
without
again,
me.
and I think what I'm really starting to see as well, what I'm really starting to see is the relational spaces, and that we need to put this into the equation for children, because some spaces aren't working for certain children. And like I say,
Mm,
that we think it's aggression, because absolutely everyone, this little boy 15 years ago, everyone, he and I'm going to say he was disliked by a lot of the teachers because he wouldn't comply.
mm,
There was parent complaints because he was different. And the other children who were maybe coming up more into that self-control were also moving away from him. So this little boy was alone and lost. And again, people don't get, when they see this big behavior, they don't see that actually it's a child who's scared. And this is what Donna's taught me. When a child cannot tell you what they feel deep inside, they will make you feel it. And then again, so this is the energy. So I didn't even realize I was coming to the energy.
yeah, it's
Because
all energy all the time. So it's
yeah,
funny when you're like, Kirsty works with energy. I'm like, so do you.
again, and
Yeah.
I'm seeing more and more I work with energy, because it's more the child that is feeling scared inside. What they're making you feel is scared. And actually what's happening is that behavior is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, because you're not
Mm,
listening to that child. They're scared. Help me now. And I know it's a very, very different way of looking at behavior, but I have seen it over and over and over again. When you start to see these children are scared, we start to see the behavior diminish.
yeah. And yeah, I guess it's not different to me. And but it's such a thing. It's like if you, yeah, you do have to be a certain level of present and compassion for yourself first. It's so important. Can't we just can't skip that part. It's so tempting to skip to like, I'm just gonna help the child. because they're important. My needs aren't a priority. Yeah.
But I couldn't do what I do now. And again, I don't know if it was us talking to you or to someone else, but there's 23 core wounds. Over the last 2 years, I have cleared 20 of them. And I can work to the level I work now because I'm not getting triggered all the time. And I still get triggered. Again, I still have my ceilings.
Hmm.
I still have
Yeah.
my ceilings where I get scared because the behavior is too scary for me, either with the child or the adult. And the adults scare me just as much as the children scare me. So,
Yeah.
but that's because they're scared, and I have to keep remembering they're scared. I have to anchor into. So I always see someone at some point. I see their real self. I see who they are behind all of the nervous system stuff and the attachment stuff. I see who they are, and I have to anchor myself into that person, because if I don't, I will get triggered, because I think I will literally start thinking they're doing this to me, and they're not. They're literally just giving off messages. And my whole
Mm.
thing is, once I can receive the message clearly, not activated through me, that's when it really support people. But it is honestly, did this question for you, Kirsty, but I'm really, really grateful that you've shown me
Did
that
you?
I work with energy.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful
Mm.
because it's actually through just talking. I'm like, this is my whole work. My whole job is working with energy, but I had to clear my static energy first.
Yeah, and I think that is so powerful being able to, even if you can't quite get to it, you feel like you're imagining it. It's like try to connect to the essence of a person and have compassion for the fact that, like all of us, they've got all these life experiences and layers of conditioning. And I always really like that quote from, is it Ram Dass about seeing people as trees?
Oh,
How
I love
we never judge the way a tree grows, or if it's like bending over and it's gnarled and doesn't even look pretty anymore. It just is.
Oh, they're my favorite trees, the gnarled ones.
And then
I love
but then
those
with
too.
people, we can be so quick to judge.
Yeah.
So
And
seeing people as trees and feeling their essence, I love that. Yeah.
And again, I always have that there's a spark inside everyone. So again, I suppose it's this energy spark inside
Mm.
everyone. And that's where I'm trying to get to. And it's more, this person has put so many layers of safety in front of them. And I saw something yesterday, and we say our body's a failure, but how can it be when it's spent all its life keeping us safe? How can our body be a failure when it has done everything it can to keep us safe? And all these masks and stuff that we put on is our body's way of keeping us safe. So, and again, I think this is my whole thing. The more people that can look at themselves in the mirror, and that literally, and other people are a great mirror for you.
Mm.
And the humbleness of actually recognizing, oh, I don't actually like what I see, because I've had to do a lot of looking about what I don't like about myself. And now that compassion I have for myself, because now I have such a depth that I can go to, both in the darker behaviors and the higher. It's more, and it's sometimes, and again, coming back to your son, I couldn't do what I do now if I had not had the challenging start in life that I've had, because that challenging start of life has given me the depth that allows me to attune to the huge behaviors that other people don't even want to touch. And I couldn't do what I do if I hadn't walked myself out of my own trauma.
Mm. Yeah, that's right. There's and it's not to belittle anybody's suffering, but when we emerge and we bring the gifts with us and we use them to assist other people, yeah, it's
And like I say,
incredibly powerful.
I'll be the first one to put my hand up. I wasn't in that space with my own children. And my own
And
children have their own journeys. And just
yeah.
like you say, and someone said exactly the same thing to me early on.
Mm.
Why do you want to change their journeys? Maybe this is so. I had exactly the same thing. I had it gifted from Marg Briffett. So she was my partner when I used to do my parent infant classes. And she was like, why do you want to change your children? Why do you not want them to be their full authenticity of who they are? Because I didn't want them to go through the same journey that I'd been through.
Yes, we get so fearful of their suffering, but yeah, life is all about challenges and learning, and there's absolutely no way to get it, perfect as a parent. So the best we can do is give ourselves grace and do our best to be present now. It doesn't matter if you feel like you messed it up, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Now it's like show up now. Yeah.
So, Kirsty, I chose this particular question because I've worked with you. I think it's over a year now I've worked with you, and I know how much my nervous system has changed over the last year. I know, I laugh every time I come to you that I know I've got a challenge ahead of me because for me, I meet you, Kirsty, and then life, and I think life does this all the time, you're just missing it. But life will give me a choice to do something differently after I've had a session with you, Kirsty.
Yeah.
But could you just, because we're talking about energy, could you talk about how you work with energy?
Yes, but first I have to plug my computer in because it's losing power.
So there might be a little gap there because I paused it because we needed to get more energy. And I did this question because I had watched another little podcast that you'd done, Kirsty. And when you started talking about energy, I just saw you expand, and I'm like, oh, I need to ask you this because you just get energy, you just get it. And I know how you've supported me. So again, I do a lot of stuff, my stuff, but I still need to do the body work. And you're one of the people that I personally come to for body work.
Mm,
So again, I know your stuff is really, really complicated, but just quickly for a child, like I say, that maybe that little boy that I met,
mm,
4 years old, jagged, spiky energy. Literally, the teachers don't like him, the parents don't like him, the children don't like him. How would he? What would happen if he came to you?
mm. Yeah, so for starters, he might be too wiggly jiggly to even hop on the table. And then that would be fine because I'd work through the mother. Because I do work with muscle testing, and so there's a certain amount of cooperation that's required, but it doesn't have to be directly with the child. So, which is awesome because I know what it's like to have wiggly jiggly ones. And you say it's complicated, but it's, actually really simple.
I
You know what
think
I
my
mean? But
work's
it's
I think
like,
my work's
yeah.
simple, and I know my work's complicated. So
Yeah, it's like simple and complicated at the same time because I work with muscle testing and I ask lots of questions and I scan through lots of different stress points. But the core of it is so simple because when I start working with anyone, I kind of just tune in, call in the light, ask for whatever is of the highest good for this being. And then that's when that kind of expansion occurs, and it's like something just happens. And for me, as I said, I don't see a lot, but I just kind of know when something's done, and I feel a lot of heat coming through. But I just start by asking what the highest priority is, and it can be all sorts of things. For a child like that, we could start with working directly with the amygdala, that fight or flight. We might be working with how in your body are you, because, a lot of us are a little bit, especially neurodivergent children and adults, we're kind of floating out of the body. And it's about like, how do we land back in the body?
And Kirsty, just to describe that, because I used to spend a lot of time out of my body, and it's really hard because I've walked through life, but it was my daughter that got my awareness of it, because she used to keep coming to the bedroom going, "Where are you, Mum?" And obviously I wouldn't be
Yeah.
in my body, and I realised
Hmm.
that, and again, we've worked together. It's I've done a lot of work over the last 10 years, and I think I know my body really, really well now.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but that's been part of coming in, because I don't think there was space for me in my body through all the wounds that I had. That's about it's not scientific, but that's sort of the way that I see it. But my daughter could see when I wasn't there, because I think I had this blank kind of expression on my face, and I'd
Yeah.
sort of literally just floated up into my head or beyond. So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's really common. If you've been stressed, you can get stuck up in your head. It's safer to be like up here or even kind of up in the ether. And that can be great for being really intuitive and switched on, like a lot of our children and our neurodivergent friends are. And then sometimes it's also like, oh yeah, and also I am human. And I've come to Earth to be a human, and it's safe to be in this body. So, like creating that safety around being in the body. And then with a child like that, I would check for those emotions that are hidden. So he might not know that he's feeling them, but looking, just finding whatever it is, the fear, um, the anger, the sadness, all the different nuances of that. And also just, I don't work by getting people to relive their traumas or anything like that, but I do check specific ages to see, like, oh, something happened maybe when you were 1, 3, 5, and it's kind of like stored in the body as a stress pattern that comes around on a loop. And we
so
just want to kind of break that up.
can I speak into that, because you took
Yeah.
me back into my mother's womb? And I find this
Mm.
absolutely fascinating when we've done some work together, because you didn't tell me what we were doing, but suddenly I could feel my mum's eyes darting, and it was more the panic. And I know what had happened previously, so but it was really weird, because it wasn't as if you'd preloaded me that this is where we were going. It was just more, suddenly my eyes are darting, and I could feel literally the panic. And it was, my whole body was in panic, and I could feel that my mum was pregnant. And I have no words. I can't describe, because it doesn't sound logical. And it's more, it didn't happen the next time. Every time I've been to, it's been something different, but that one was the most profound for me,
Mm.
because I could feel. And then it was only afterwards that you literally just laughed and went, "We've just taken you back into the womb." And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me! You've got to be kidding me that I was feeling this panic in the womb from my mum."
Yes, and we feel it all and we download it, and that's the thing. And then we're not always aware of it. And so it's just a way of, and that's why it's different. Every session is different because I'm not doing anything to a person. All I am is a conduit for bringing to the light whatever's there, and then asking what would assist the energy to flow more, um, in a more aligned way that supports healing. So, it's really very non-invasive, but it's very much in a sense like what you do. It's like, here's a different perspective on what might be going on.
Yeah. And as you're talking, I everything you say, that's because I don't go to the trauma either. I don't believe that we need to go to the trauma until our bodies feel safe enough. And that's literally that unfolding. Our body will go there when it feels safe enough. So I do exactly the same as what you do. I literally, but I'm doing it in real time physically. And that's why a lot of the time, like I say, if you work with me, I'll often suggest you go and see Kirsty as well, because I feel that yes, this real in the physical stuff, but I also feel the body work, because I've done that myself on my own journey, and I know how powerful it is. You know, it's both, and I find it really interesting that yeah, we've found a way of coming together, and that we've both become, it's both of us, I think, feel it's really easy what we do, but I know that what we both do is actually very complicated. But I also feel it's that different journey. And now suddenly where I don't have to go off and do body work and learn body work, because I've got a Kirsty in my life. So I can send anyone that's working with me to Kirsty. And I know that you do the same thing the other
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say likewise because yeah, I value so deeply what you do and because someone can come for a session, lie on the table and be like, "Oh yeah, I feel quite relaxed," but it's so much more powerful if then whilst integrating, they're noticing what's really coming up
and
and
I
being able to connect it with yeah, what are my needs?
yeah.
What's causing me to be dysregulated in this moment?
And I think
And
I noticed
yeah.
that from working with you, because I always noticed, because I'm now literally, I've come off the table and I know within the next 3 days there's going to be something different in my life, but I've got a choice to make a difference. But I see my work with the interplay and the relational flow creating those situations where parents and children can do something different. You know, it's more, they can find that connection where there's been disconnection, or they can speak their needs or whatever it is, and I'll hold the safety while they do that. But it's I can't see you can do one without the other. It's more, um, I think the body is such a beautiful tool for listening to yourself. And once you can and again, the more, and I know we've really gone on today, but I think this is beautiful, and whoever's here is meant to hear this conversation,
Mm.
because yeah, I think this is why I asked you to do this with me, because we have two very different lenses for looking at the same thing. And I actually think both lenses are needed as we take this journey in different degrees, depend on different people.
Yeah, exactly. It's so individual, but the work is definitely synergistic and I'm very grateful for you.
Likewise,
Yeah.
absolutely likewise. A year of working with you, likewise. So it's I you know I it's I think any mum that has been highly dysregulated, when now you can walk through life, and yes, there's still dysregulation, but you come back into that regulated space way quicker. You know, you find the repair with your partner way quicker. You find the repair with your children way quicker. And you have compassion for yourself and the journey that you've walked through. And each one of us has walked through a journey. Some have been easier or harder at the start or later on. It's more, I don't think anyone, yes, some of us have had a harder start to life, others have had a harder teenager to adult journey. But like you say, it's more, and I would just want to tie up with Pikler, because that need to struggle is literally a core of what we do with Pikler. But you have to be able to be regulated yourself to allow the child to struggle, because that struggle is where that resilience comes in. And often we shut it down because we can't stand the pain of watching our children struggle. But actually, that struggle is how they grow.
That's right. And it's the attunement so important in discerning, when to assist and when to step back. And it's always being fine-tuned in parenting and all relationships, but especially parenting in terms of that, like, do I swoop in?
And this is why, again, in Pikler, we talk about interdependence. And it's more in its simplest form. It's, I know a child can do something and they still ask for help. And so it's exactly what you're saying, Kirsty. I will offer, the invitation is always there, the invitation is there, and I will wait long enough to allow the struggle, but not the hopelessness. And sometimes the child is asking because there's a need that physical act of putting on a sock can do. And that might be the physical need of, I need some extra connection at the moment. And putting on that sock that you know they can do themselves is their way of feeling the love from you.
Yeah, exactly. It's so variable. It's definitely not about being cruel or harsh watching your child struggle, because I have that had that child who needed me to do his socks and shoes until very recently, and it had to be just right. And and as you say, there can be a need underneath for connection, but also there's, you layer in with your neurodivergent kids the sensory needs and all the rest, and
So a
yeah,
need for comfort, that's still a need. Comfort and
exactly.
security, they're all valid needs.
Yeah.
Oh, I could just, I'm going to go on just one more because I've just met this most beautiful 6-year-old who is able now at 6 to speak her needs. And I meet adults that can't do that. And it's more for a child that young to know that she has needs and that they're valid. And it's actually okay for her to speak her need. It's just a celebration. But we had to get through a whole lot of crud to get to that point where she could see that she was important. So,
Yeah,
and she is
it's
so important.
actually remarkable because, as you say, so many of us as adults are just trying to figure out, like, oh, who am I, and what matters to me and what actually do I need in this moment. So to have it kind of,
Oh,
figured
it's
out
so,
relatively at that age, gosh, it's yeah,
and
as
I
you
love
say,
it
what a
because
celebration.
I've hardly taught
Yeah.
her anything. She's just run with it, and I'm like, oh, this child is amazing, so amazing. I'm gonna wrap up because oh God, I love these chats. I love them. And yeah, well, I'm gonna have to have my little clocks. I don't have my little clock today for my 25 minutes, so we've gone way over. So,
Oh, well, yeah, we're way off schedule today,
but
and
it's
don't
been
miss
my
your flight. Thank you.
oh, you don't miss my flight. So, Kirsty, thank you. And if you've got to the end, I really think that you get what we're talking about, and it's different lenses. And this is why we called it different lenses, because there's wisdom, and there'll be other people out there with their own lenses too. And that's the uniqueness. You will find those people. So if you hear something attunes to you in what we're saying, go with it. You don't have to come to us, but just know that you're in a knowing for yourself and your children is so incredibly important. Just because someone has a title doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. And that's probably a really controversial kind of thing, but that's my whole thing. It's more,
Agree.
a mum knows their children the best, and don't let anyone tell you you don't know your children.
I agree.
Let's stop this. See you, my
Sending love.
gorgeous.
Bye.